Welcome back, everyone. We're on to a really great session and a powerful panel. And I would thank you for the yummy menaish, for sure. And I love the KTHer. That's a great little way to describe the group. So this session is titled Gaza, Now and Beyond. It'll be a powerful panel where we'll hear not just about the headlines, but really the stories. And we're going to bring some human elements to those stories by having the great panelists that we've selected to speak to you. And then we'll move our conversation into advocacy, journalism, media, action. So what we have decided, the way we're going to conduct this session is a little bit more of a fireside chat where I'm going to ask the question, pose the question, ask our panelists to answer it, and then we'll do another round, and we'll leave some time for Q&A. I believe we have an hour. So welcome to all three of you. And we'll start with that, and I guess, Laila, we'll start with you. The first question is, in terms of, the personal testimony and the suffering and knowing that it's more than just the suffering as the Palestinian people have a resilience. But if you can share with us in a few minutes what it has meant to you, witnessing the genocide that we're all witnessing together.
What it's meant to me?
Yeah, what it's meant to you personally.
Get this closer. Okay, well, first of all, it's so wonderful to be here with, I feel like I'm, in my living room with everyone. And I'm not sure where Dr. Nagham is. We were just messaging her, but hopefully she'll get here soon. Well, oh, go ahead.
She'll be joining us from
Oh, she is? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
She'll be joining
us. Oh, okay. We misunderstood. We thought she was here. So, I mean, where does one start? I'm just trying to, I think Hani and I are probably in the same boat. Whenever we get asked this question, we kind of pause for a second. And at least for me personally, I feel like I get a reel of the past 2 years flashing before my eyes. So, in summary, it's changed our lives forever, the lives of our families forever, I think the lives of probably everyone. But maybe let me back up and say that, and again, no offense to you, but we often, as Palestinians from Gaza, hear this word a lot. Palestinians in Gaza are resilient, right? And lately it's, Gazans. In Arabic, we understand in the Palestinian vernacular, we say Gazazwa. But it also has this, the danger is that it makes us sort of into a separate, it sort of entrenches the fragmentation of Palestinians, not just physically, but kind of mentally, psychologically, something that the Israelis have actively worked towards. But the danger, I just want to put this out there so we can frame the conversation, of referring to Palestinians, and especially those in Gaza, as resilient, is that it almost absolves the audience, the questioner, anyone really who's a virtual witness to this or is following along closely from responsibility. Because the thinking goes, if Palestinians are resilient, therefore they can handle whatever comes their way. And this is part of what has come to color, I would say, the story of the genocide over the past 2 years, and really the story of Gaza over the past probably 20 years of blockade and closure. Look what the Palestinians can do in Gaza. No matter what, and definitely I always like to say this is definitely part of the story, but nobody kind of gets up in the morning and says, I want to be resilient, or I want a genocide, and I'm going to show everyone how I respond. The sad reality is they have been completely and utterly abandoned by the world. We keep hearing Gaza has become the litmus test of humanity, and that's not to say there aren't very good people, that I like to think one day in front of God, if you believe in God, will question us about all of this. What did you do during this genocide? That aren't doing what they can. But for the most part, people kind of shrug and get sad and watch the videos and then move on with their lives. And so it has what does the genocide mean to me, or what has it done? I think it can be crippling sometimes. Sometimes my friends say, oh, we haven't heard from you for weeks, and then suddenly I reemerge. That's for a reason. And I'm sure Hani can relate. Sometimes we want to retreat to a very dark place. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to see anyone. I feel overwhelmed and demoralized, and that no matter what I do, it's not enough. And other days, we get up and we say, this is our trial. As my cousins keep reminding me, they say the only thing we want from you and the only message we want you to keep delivering to people is keep speaking up. Keep following the news very closely, and if you're not seeing the news, then be very concerned, and try to amplify that news and try, if writing is your thing, write. If it's not, you know, I mean, there's a multitude of things one can do, and I'm sure we'll get to that later. But their point is, not only don't forget about us, keep speaking about us, because I keep hearing from them over and over and over. That's what gives us hope. That's what helps us get up in the morning. We remember that we're not forgotten at the very least. But I could go on and on. I want to give some time to Hani as well.
Okay, thank you. And Hani, go ahead.
Same question.
Yeah, same question.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. The coffee is good, and I can talk.
I didn't get any. It was out when I...
No, they refilled it.
Oh,
I
they did?
asked.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Rana, by the way. Rana's in the room. Rana did a good job. So it's messy. Obviously, we see our own families are in the front line of the genocide. We lose many family members, and it gets personal, and it gets more intimate, and it gets to break you, really. You know, they keep killing people, and first it's your neighbors, then your extended cousins, and then, oops, your brother and his nephew and his kids and the house cat. And then it takes a different dimension, because a lot of people keep saying we're all traumatized and all that, but not like that. Not what we've seen in Gaza. Not, you know, basically, we thought human rights will save us. Nope. We thought journalism will save us. They killed the biggest journalist. We thought humanitarian workers. Nope. They killed 400 of those, and they're still killing more of those. We thought our neighbors, the neighborhood, will save us. Nobody could do anything. And then you just know that you have to respond, you have to help. And Laila and I, are in a WhatsApp group for Ghazawis in the US, and it has got to about 600 people during the thick of the genocide. And it was like a support group. There was a lot of emotions. There's a day where somebody says, I don't like this Palestinian faction, and then a few hours later, they take it back. Or it's a hot mess. And it became a group where we organized and helped, get aid, get news. When we cannot reach our neighbors, we're like, hey, I know Saeed Salim is from Beit Lahia. Hey, Saeed, did you hear anything? And we will share updates. Laila was looking for a tent for her relatives a few weeks ago. And it's keep coming. And for me, the worst part is having to show up and really do my best work while I see my family being genocided. And that's a big burden. In addition to showing up for work at my amazing team at UNRWA USA, UNRWA USA, where UNRWA remains on the ground in Gaza. If you take one thing away from this, know that UNRWA remains in Gaza, doing a lot of things. Not everything, but doing a lot. And you have to show up, you have to engage people, and you have to talk to this retiree from Wyoming who's traumatized. And then if you remember the circle of grief, you're in the middle of the circle of grief, and you wish people would take away stuff from the circle of grief, not add to it. And a lot of people don't know that. And, you know, when my brother gets killed, I get flooded with 1,000 messages. It's a blessing, but also it's like, I cannot respond. I want to acknowledge, but I cannot. And it's hard, and my relationship in my household is not the same, because I am just married to Gaza right now, and every morning I wake up, oh, I'm an orphan, and it's hard, and I care, but at some point you feel like I don't know what to do, and I can't, like, you think I couldn't go just drive to some beach here in Ocean City and hang out. I could. But, you know, mentally, we're all thinking, and I know you relate to this, because, you know, whenever you think about a meal, you're like, oh my gosh, I wish we could do this. And I stopped telling my mom, like, hey, because it's hard, but subhanAllah, yani, they will always tell you sahha wa afia, and they don't have anything to eat. And then we pivoted to working to help the community through the Gaza Soup Kitchen. So that's another hat I wear. But at the end, emotionally, this is depleting. It is not, it's never ending. And some of the folks in the room here have been in meetings with me in Congress, in the White House. And you know, these people don't see us. And this is in October, this is in November, and then in January, I realized, hey, these people don't see us. It's a waste of time to talk to them. Manal, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to have Dr. Nagham also answer the question. Is she with us?
Guys, dear friends and honor colleagues and guests, it's my pleasure to be part of this conference today from Gaza especially, which is the main subject of this panel. I'm not will be sharing any stories whom I read in reports. I will share stories that I have lived for 2 years till now in this genocide. The meaning of genocide had took us a lot, took us 2 years. We had lost, especially I had lost like 32 from my family members. I had lost also dear friends here in Gaza City. And still we are going in more and more cases and disastrous things. As a doctor, we had seen a lot of scenes that is too for a human being even to see. Like we had seen patients that could be like saved, but because of a simple infection, they had died because like of a simple infection that can be treated with a simple antibiotic anywhere and any place and around the world. But because this patient is in Gaza, he got died, unfortunately. I had like witnessed a lot of operations with surgeons in an operation rooms that they are operating via the flashlights of their mobile. Unfortunately, you can hear the gunshot behind me also. And ground. We are living in a very disastrous way, but we are continuing. Before today's, I had like sat with myself and said, if I were like born in any part like other than Gaza, it would be like hitting me a lot different and a lot harder to not feel this, the meaning of this life. I feel that we Palestinians had gained the dignity and a different way of meaning, unfortunately. The genocide had a lot of impacts for the Palestinian, either an immediate effects or long-term effects. Like psychologically, a lot of people right now have a lot of traumas. We have witnessed a lot of patients in our medical points. A lot of students are like keep thinking with food in their classrooms. Like we are now holding a school, so a lot of our students and like the school, they keep thinking of food because of the famine, because of displacement, because of everything. Like a lot of humanitarian crises are unfortunately right now in Gaza City, like famine. People like keep not eating for plenty of days, even months from since May. Like today, the UN had announced like 1 out of the 3 children got killed, unfortunately, because of the malnutrition, because of not having any food, which is a right. As a Palestinian, we are too educated. We have a zero literacy rate. And we have always been educated, studying about the UN. It's too hard to know that finally not living those rights as a right of living, right to study, right of learning, and the right to have the right to speak also. So all of this surrounding us, it's too heavy and too hard. Also the collapse of the healthcare system. As a doctor and as a witnessing a lot of collapse in the healthcare system, it's very disastrous that it's a privilege right now, not a right. يعني the right to heal a person or a right. It's his right, but right now it's a privilege in Gaza City. So the world genocide, I feel it has started from 1948, and we have to highlight this, not from 2023 or from October the 7th. Also, this panel, because it does headlines fail to do, it explores not only the politics of the war, but also the human face of the war. And when I had like read about it, I loved how like finally we have that someone whom are not seeing us a numbers, like behind the family we have a story, behind each person we have a life, a dream, a dignity, and a right. So it's given me really that positive thing. That's a pleasure in the midst of everything we are living right now in Gaza. That's a positive thing to speak up and to be here with you. And very thank you all. Thank you a lot.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Nagham. Yeah, and thank you to all of you, because we wanted to start just with the personal stories and just to, connect with the human side of it. And so let's move into, in terms of, the crisis, the humanitarian crisis. And my question for you is, what do you believe is the greatest need, one? And then secondly, for those of us that are outside of Gaza, what do you think is the most sustainable, most useful way that we can help? So start with Laila again.
Yeah, and apologies, we might have gotten a little off track or emotional. I don't know that we addressed the personal per se, but in fact, I might add to the beginning and then go into what the humanitarian need is and what you can do. I want to add that, when I reflect on it, the one word that comes to mind when people ask what this has been like or what the last 2 years for us as Palestinians, who are from Gaza with family there on the ground who were going and coming on a regular basis before this, is disorienting. And I've often described it as you feel like the ground is shifting beneath your feet. And you just never know what to expect, and you're constantly trying to hold kind of a room or a ceiling together that's just crumbling and falling apart. And the things and the places and the cultural markers that you knew and visited, and all of that is gone. And the rest of all that remains in the city, in the beating heart of the rest of the Gaza Strip, is now threatened with complete erasure, in the next 2 weeks. And so that's been particularly difficult for the last few who remain. I mean, every single, and this will lead me into answering the next question, all major aid organizations, big and large, have left the city. I just heard today that Doctors Without Borders, they were still there. They left after their offices in Tel El-Hawa were surrounded by tanks. And so there's people still there in the city. And when you generally hear North Gaza, there's no more North Gaza. They've completely wiped that out. But Gaza City exists, and that's considered all that remains of the North. And there's several 100,000 people who are still there. Many can't afford to move south, and many just don't want to. And that's something I'm sure maybe Hani can talk about. But the process to evacuate south, and some are forced. I mean, my cousin just WhatsApped me saying that tanks surrounded her house. This will be the second time in 24 months. And the first time, 14 Israeli soldiers stormed their home in the middle of the night and literally kicked them out and forced them to walk 10 hours south. And she insisted on going back during the ceasefire, and now they surrounded them again and forced them out. But if you sort of are preempting that and decide that you want to go find some elusive safety, it requires you to find a $1,200 tent. It requires you to pay upwards of, someone was saying it costs more than a ticket to the Maldives, right? So several $1,000s in transportation. It requires you to be able to find the materials to equip a tent toilet. It requires you to, if you can't find a tent, to find pieces of wood and tarps and things like that to erect a tent. And it requires you to find a space to set all this up, which is almost non-existent. And if you happen to find a small little piece of land, it'll be rented out for several $100s a month. Now imagine, multiply this, and most families are not just 2 or 3 people, right? Families who they usually try to travel together to save on travel costs. So you'll have like 20 or 30 people trying to travel at the same time. And then families will either get split up or try to share accommodations. And the stress and strain that this takes, we were talking about, Dr. Nagham was talking about this, the mental strain of all this decision making. And my cousin, for several days in Gaza City, has been going back and forth with me saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Should I go now when it's still safe, or should I not? My daughter's in college and she's insisting she doesn't want to leave, and she's saying we'll be fine. But I'm worried about, my children. And then you become manic in a way, right? These are the kinds of things he's grappling with every minute of every day as the tanks are getting closer to the very heart of Gaza City as we speak. In terms of the humanitarian needs, I might defer that question to Hani. I can touch on it a little bit based on my own involvement. I do a lot of, not so advertised. We try to kind of keep it hush-hush to protect those who are involved. Mutual aid work, on the ground for the past 2 years. And I would say the biggest need is probably depending, my focus has been on the north for the past 24 months and the areas that are sort of the most marginal. I translated that record from Arabic. I don't think it made sense in English. On the margins of society, sorry, that's what I meant to say. The need, it depends on the month, but like because the north often is cut off from the rest, the needs have often been to get food baskets or items in the hands of people to be able to cook themselves. And part of the reason this is important is because it gives them a little bit of dignity. At a time, I said, when everything, just feels so uncertain, and the ground is shifting beneath your feet, being able to cook a meal for your family by yourself with whatever ingredients you have can have that grounding effect, right? And it can be very dignifying. So that was the main need. And of course, I should add to this that there's been no protein to speak of, no fresh produce or protein, and definitely no fruit. Anything that people might be able to have that remotely resembles fruit is like syrupy canned fruit that might cost upwards of $10 for a can, right? No or very minimal fresh produce in the north at all. Again, if you're going to buy anything, it's more of a luxury. It's going to cost you maybe $20 a pound for something, right? Who can afford that? And so that's the main, I would say, distinction is what might be available and what's affordable to most people. No animal protein, no fresh produce or fruit. Everything is canned. And you see this long-term impact. Every other day I get a message from someone who has kidney stones, for example, and looking for a certain medication and how you can get them. And then access to fresh water is the other one, because they've intentionally, the Israelis, been targeting all of the infrastructure, anything that sustains life, anything that allows people to remain where they are. And anytime, and I have a personal anecdote to share in which I was helping someone, an engineer in the north, when he went back to Jabalia after the mini ceasefire in January, to extend water lines to help people remain who wanted to stay on the rubble of their homes. And the moment they started doing it, they attacked them with a quadcopter, killed the 2 people that were helping him. He survived and destroyed all the water lines. So this is another problem, is getting fresh water to people and getting anything that they can cook with, I would say, are the biggest needs. Now it's finding shelter for people because nobody has anywhere to stay. It's really expensive and really difficult. And in terms, I probably overspoke, but in terms of the most, things people can do, kind of the question that I get asked the most, I wouldn't say one specific thing. What I like to remind people is that depending on where you are in your world, in your life, in your space, choose something that you can do consistently and sustainably on a regular basis. And I kind of usually ground this from my Islamic worldview of the most beloved acts to God are ones that are small but done on a regular basis. And so that's what I always recommend to people, not kind of a one-off, really big. It's great to go to protests because that re-energizes us, and we need that. We need to convene with like-minded people. But we also need to be doing those small, regular acts, whether maybe all you can do is call your congressman and remind them to sign on to Block the Bombs Act or whatever. Do that. Those things work. If that's all you can do, do that. If you can write a regular letter to your newspapers about some coverage that you didn't like, and there's guides about this that will help you come up with, then do that, right? If you maybe belong to a church and you had a brunch or a potluck, and you can do one, bring some conversation starters and make it centered around Gaza and teach people something new that they didn't know. I mean, there's all sorts of ideas, but my recommendation is always choose one that makes sense and do it on a regular basis. And then finally, sorry, I always get asked about donation. My preference is always to donate to smaller organizations or mutual aids that you know personally. Never give money to someone you don't know, that are able to get money and are doing work on the ground. Lately, I just haven't, the really big organizations, most of them left and are not able to be as effective as they once were because of the restrictions on aid flow.
Yeah, thank you, Laila. We'll go straight to Hani.
I have very little to add. Good job. Honestly, and this is a music to Manal's ears, I want people to vote. Do not be like disruptor. Do not try to be edgy. Do not say there is a third way. Your option is A and B. That's it. This is the old gross. They're disgusting. But you're not making the Palestinians safe when you say like, hey, I want to go support another way. And this is hard for me to say, but this is the reality. when I look at the numbers and say Jewish Americans, 80% of them vote, Catholics 60%, and the Muslims are like 35, your congressperson knows you're not a reliable person, you know, because they want people who vote. It doesn't matter, like you just go and write your mom's name or whatever it is. So you just have to show up. Don't show up when Gaza's being bombed, right? So this is one, and I really feel strongly about this. Even local elections, you know, we have people here who ran for local offices. You don't have to be a congressperson from day one. You could be the guy in sewage and water, and we have those in our community. So that's one. Two, also show up for our allies. Don't just come and expect like, hey, LGBTQ, they're here, and really just mean it. Show up and invest in your local community. You know, I was happy to see somebody invited me from the community a few weeks ago to get backpacks ready for kids in DC. And I went and I had a good experience despite the genocide in Gaza, but you want to show people that you're reliable, right? And that's another one. Political giving. We're not showing up in the ways we can. We do much better in the humanitarian sector. We could always do better. But in the political giving, this is really key because that's where we disappoint. I'm happy to see few PACs emerging and doing some good work and invest in those. You know, money is power. I swear when I go talk to Congress, the only time they take notes when I tell them, hey, in your district, we raise $100,000. That's the only time they write. They don't write the names of killed family members because they know if somebody has money to give for a charity, they most likely will give for political giving. So don't be discouraged and like, hey, it all sucks, it's all rigged. I get it. I want to be also asleep on Tuesday, whenever they have election. But you really have to show up. And that's, this is how one way you could keep the Palestinians safe. And I'm one who engaged with a candidate, and I thought she was good in private. I just gave her away. But in public, she was never going to say the stuff they say in private. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. Like, this is the reality. And we need you to show up, so that's one. Two, you know, being engaged in the process, political giving, but also looking at your investment portfolio and look at these bad actors. There is a lot of them, and you will be surprised. There's portfolios that are investment that are, some people have Sharia compliant, but some people also have ethical investment portfolios, so feel free to follow up with me if that's something interests you. It's honestly even small things, like we're your hotel company, like we serve Starbucks. No, like, hell no, you're not serving me that. They need to know, they need to hear this feedback, because in the brighter side, I just read news yesterday, Starbucks is closing locations and downsizing. And that's a message. It's not just Starbucks. Starbucks is not bombing Gaza, but they're sending donations and repressing labor unions. So some of those things matter, and I want people to think about them carefully. And also young people, I tell them run for office. You know, this is key because, you know, like you could change. And small acts. A few years ago, the kids and I went to South Carolina near Myrtle Beach, and we saw a sign that said Charleston, that's South Carolina, yeah, Charleston. And they said Charleston stands with Israel. And I was like, I wrote to the Board of Tourism. I said, hey, we came here because we want to escape this horror. You guys bring it front and center. They need to hear. This is why the Jewish grandmas in Florida are good writing letters to the editors and bullying news anchors for having Hani or Laila to speak, because it doesn't matter. They always going to say you're extreme. There was a synagogue in Philadelphia, invited me, and then the rabbi was excited. Then a week later, he wasn't. He said, sorry, I can't do it. Some donor told him, don't. But yesterday, we spoke, on Saturday, we spoke at another one in New York. And so be willing to have these conversations, but not to have those conversations. You know, be a bridge, but towards something. And they really center Palestinian voices. Some of you know on Facebook, I try to uplift some voices, but sometimes there's groups that does a fundraiser for Gaza. 0 Palestinian on this program. I statements are very powerful. You bring me an influencer from TikTok who's going to talk about, oh, the Palestinians are suffering. I know that. We need somebody like Dr. Nagham, Dr. Nagham to tell us in the first person. And, you know, I could talk about the humanitarian forever, but this is a panel, and I'm going to give time for our, thank you.
I'm going to mention one other quick thing that people can do, which is to do letter writing campaigns to some of the ICE prisoners. So there's a lot of people who were taken by ICE for protesting for Palestine, for speaking up. And many of us don't even know their names. I'll just mention one, like Liqa Kurdiya, for example. There's others. There's someone that was taken yesterday from his family's home. And they talk about how they never get support. They love and they cherish when they get letters, but they rarely get those. That's something very easy to do from the comfort of your own home and your communities and with your families and so on.
Yeah, excellent suggestion. And we'll go ahead and ask Dr. Nagham to give her opinion or just thoughts on just the humanitarian crisis and what we can do outside of the U.S. Maybe 1 to 2 minutes so that then we can move into the next question.
Hello again. I want to tell you before about Gaza City and a personal story that I had endured the past week. Like on the past Friday, we had, and we were forced to leave Gaza City and to go to the southern area. I feel this is a privilege that we have that right to go to the south, because I really know a lot of families, a lot of women, a lot of elderly patients, a lot of children are trapped right now in Gaza City because they don't have the money or the means to come into the southern area. My father is like, he is 75 years. He was born in 1950. He didn't want to leave either in the October 13th because he is so elderly, because we are afraid about him. He is one from many right now in Gaza City that a lot of people right now, they don't want to leave Gaza. They don't want to go to the southern area. But day and day, the tanks are getting more closer. Our back fear right now from that robot that the Israelis are using right now, which is like a robot come between 50 houses, and they all were been damaged, unfortunately. So they are damaging our dreams, our life, our everything from the basics. As Laila said, the displacement is also right now, it's not like with $1 or a tent. Finding a tent even, it's not there. Like before 2 days, we are helping a lot of families right now, but we are also not finding even tents right now for the families, because a lot of families are getting them and the traders are also hiding them. So we have a problem right now with a lot of things. With them, like tents, finding also places like the IOF is telling the people go to the southern area. The southern area is not having the whole people from the northern area or Gaza City or even the southern people also. So they are putting us in a too small area, and that is a very bad thing. Plus, it's not safe at all. Like they are saying about the humanitarian area and this is a safe zone, but to me it's all propaganda. Like beside the shelter we are now in, they had bombed yesterday. It was like too high and too loud and too strong bombardment, unfortunately, without any threats even before. So they are saying that it's a humanitarian area, but it's not. It's all a propaganda about what we have to do. To me, we Palestinians don't want anything from the world, but we want justice, we want peace, we want dignity. This is the main thing. But we have also to work about the 4 things: infrastructure, healthcare, education, and empowerment. To me, education is the weapon for any Palestinian right now in Gaza City, because before war we don't have any, like we have a 0 literacy rate, and to now, like we don't have a lot of schools, we don't have a lot of school points and educational points. That's why we have to make a lot of schools right now in Gaza. I'd like how Laila said about the renal stones. It's too true. The renal stones cases are too high because of the water pollution that we are enduring right now. So making like a fresh water for the people, it's too great. Plus, I would like to if the organization start to make empowerment, to find jobs for the people and helping them, getting the food, water, and the basics of needs of their life, it would be much better than giving them a parcel of food or giving them a parcel of vegetable, because we Palestinians, we love to get saves the dignity for the people. At the same time, we Palestinians love to we work and then we got the food. So I feel we have to work on the 4 zones. And last thing, in the healthcare system, because right now the healthcare system is we have a drop right now in it, and we must solve it, because right now the main thing home serving and is a lifeline for many patients right now in Gaza is the healthcare system. And we have like to, as much as we want, we have to push it and to strengthen it more and more, because it's the lifeline for many people here. And thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nagham. We want to move into journalism and advocacy. And so my question to you is that, we understand that, that social media has been a really effective tool to get the information beyond the Gaza border. So what do you believe that we can be doing to ensure that, that we're able to curtail the misinformation and keep the truth coming out?
Yeah, because we're short on time, I'm trying to think of the most concise way to say this. I would advise people to join one of the media watch lists. So there's 2 that I know of. There's the IMEU has one, the Institute for Middle East Understanding, and then Justice for All has another one. And what they'll do is they'll send you alerts every day and say, media alert, the New York Times, described in the passive sense the killing of aid workers in Gaza as they died instead of they were killed, for example. And then they'll tell you exactly how to correct that. Email them at this message, or tweet them, or post on Instagram and tell them, and then they'll give you the language. That's a very easy thing to do. They do it almost every day, and that does reach them. So part of what I do is media consulting, and I find people in Gaza, I help them write, I help them publish their pieces, and I can tell you, and we push back against editors all the time about the language. For example, for months and months, the New York Times, I'll just give you one anecdote and then I can move on to Hani, kept saying things like, and you see the BBC doing this, and AP still does this, 60,000 Palestinians, have been killed. These numbers are from the Hamas-run health ministry, who does not distinguish between civilians and combatants. I'm sure who's heard this before or seen this, right? The New York Times stopped doing that. We kept pushing them and pushing them and pushing them. And now they just say, Israel has killed this many Palestinians. Now, that doesn't mean that their coverage is fabulous, but it just goes to show that if you do push back, eventually it will result in a small course correction. And these don't seem like big wins when we're talking about a genocide, but we really do have to look at the bigger picture and kind of keep our eyes on the prize. If you are in it for, I always talk about the myth of immediate results. If you're in it for the immediate results, you're going to get really disappointed and burn out very quickly.
Okay, very good. And Hani, regarding media and advocacy?
Thank you. So IMEUs has been very great about supporting and telling those stories. They do a great job, and we need to make sure they're supported as well. There's another group I work with called Rethink Media. I don't know much about them, but they're really good, and they get interviews and they coach, and I think it's been good that we have people in our community who do that. Honestly, it comes to our community, everybody wants to be doctor, and we need journalists too. Every time in the newsroom there is a Pakistani ally or a Jewish old lady who's like, hey, I want a Palestinian to be featured. So we need to be in those spaces. Like, you do a theater production about Palestine, and then the guy's last name is Cohen, has cousins in a Tel Aviv settlement or something like that. So we have to be, supporting our kids to pursue their dreams. Said that, we need the lawyers to sue more Israeli entities. I feel they have not stepped up. The doctors went to Gaza to treat people. I feel the lawyers have not sued enough bad actors. There is so many of them. And I hope somebody's listening. And I know I'm working on some lawsuits as well. Laila sued, I think, President Biden. Yeah, may he rest in peace. And a lot of that work we do together. And then from Gaza. Yes. Allah ilano. But the point I want to make is also within Gaza, we've, Allah yarhamu, my brother Chef Mahmoud, when he started the soup kitchen, and it's like the top of the first wave of the famine, he said, hey, I hired Ishaq to be the photographer. And I was like, what's he talking about? And I'm in fundraising. I was like, why is he hiring a photographer? We just want to get them food. He got a guy who used to fry falafel, And this guy got a camera, and he was an amazing photographer. Just documented the famine, the stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And now he works for a top humanitarian NGO as the guy who documents this. And more like him, we got a guy who used to be a lawyer, and he's one of our in Gaza. And we keep to document this, and that's the obligation we have, is to talk about the positive, show the kid with the food, but also talk about the elderly person who collapsed because they're too starved, like in June and July we did.
And really quickly, you'll probably notice that you're seeing less and less news come out of Gaza, beyond just kind of the headlines now. And that's on purpose, because they've killed most of the journalists, but they've also shut down most of the accounts of citizen journalists and social media journalists in Gaza. And we're following this very closely, but even I'm finding it, and I'm sure Hani would agree, really difficult to get up-to-date news. So we rely on Telegram and Signal feeds from minute-by-minute news from the ground. And that's what others are doing, like Musab, Abu Toha. But I would suggest, if you're on social media, one thing you can do directly related to journalism media is amplify whatever news you are seeing. Even if you know someone, interview them and post that, because that's really helpful. That's just not out there anymore like the way it once was. And as they're approaching Gaza City and preparing again to just completely destroy it, it becomes more important than ever to keep the lens and keep Gaza the story.
Very good. And Dr. Nagham, the same question about the media and also just the advocacy through journalism. Your thoughts on how we can keep the truth coming out?
Hello guys, I'm here again. To me, the journalism had made a different now people and right in the world to know about Gaza. And I really appreciate journalists here in Gaza because a lot of journalists unfortunately have and risking their only for getting a simple news. And know all of. Plus, I want to tell you documentation that had made because of the journalism and about the statistics. A lot of statistics, unfortunately, like the famine. We got the famine like from April, and the past month, the UN had said that, approved that Gazans had a famine. But like we, before 3 months, had a famine. And that is a big thing. Like the journalism and the photograph and filming is a main thing right now, and is a lifeline for many Palestinians right now. But a lot of platforms not having the correct and the right ways to document, especially in famine. And a lot of diseases right now are like more like Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a neurological disease that had the neurons and the spinal cord that led in a complete paralysis in a day and night, unfortunately, and that's because of the pollution and a lot of HIV, a lot of skin infections also, and all got emerged because of the help of the humanitarian journalists right now in Gaza. But also a lot of platforms like Al Jazeera and others are pretending Gazas as heroes. We are not heroes. We are normal humans living and enduring a lot that anyone around the world can endure right now as a human being. So I don't want really the journalists and the platforms to show up the Palestinians as a heroic people, as a heroes, or as extraordinary people. We are a normal people. We can feel like you all around the world. So this is a negative thing on them. Plus, a lot of things right now is happening in north of Gaza and Gaza City, and it's not documented right now in a lot of platforms, unfortunately, because we had lost a lot of journalists and many. And from, unfortunately, the journalists right now, because they can be camera and no one can do anything. Like before, I had texted my colleagues in Al Shifa Hospital tanks are away from them 500 meters. Helicopter is shooting on them. There are only 15 doctors there. And, on the ground and surrounding the shop don't have any food or water also. And most organizations, even all organizations, had left Gaza. And we are working like on the ground via mutual aid and partners right now via individuals and many people right now in Gaza City. But the thing, it's like this is happening without any documentation, without any press coverage, unfortunately, in any platform. But to me, as a Palestinian, to me, the journalism had a lot into Gaza this war, because a lot of people didn't know about Gaza or didn't know about Palestine. I had traveled plenty of times before this war. I told them that I'm from Palestine. They said, sorry, are you from Pakistan? So even Palestine, they weren't known about it. So the journalism had made a vital thing in this genocide in Gaza. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We just have about 5-6 minutes remaining, and I just want to summarize what I heard from the session. And I also want to invite you, we can maybe take 1 or 2 questions if you want to write it down, and we have our volunteers that will help collect those questions. But what was important in speaking with, hearing all 3 of our panelists is, number one, let's remind ourselves that we are all Palestinian. And we have to be careful that we don't keep dividing ourselves, that we are separating ourselves and weakening the group. And I think in America, people don't understand. They think Gaza as a country, it's this little the strip. So we all care about each other, and any of us could have been like, we're all Gazans, we're all Palestinians. The other thing that I thought was really important when Laila talked about consistency in your acts, whatever you're doing, be consistent about it. I did appreciate Hani bringing up the importance of voting and elections and really shifting. And people are starting to say, we're going to do humanitarian needs, but we also have to, if we're going to ever change the way the policies work in this country and how important they are. And we heard in the first panel with our moderator that we're fighting a fight here for our own, freedom and freedom of speech and other rights. And then also what I appreciated as well is the ethical investing that Hani brought up. So lots of work ahead of us. And one question here, and it says to Laila from Birthday Fusi from Watermelon Sisters, do you have any recommended resources for writing letters to pro-Palestinian detainees? Any websites that you can use to find addresses, names, etc.?
That's a really good question. I can find out and let you know if you want to, or if you maybe just come see me after, and I'll, because I have it somewhere in my phone, I just off the top of my head, or maybe as others are speaking, I'll look it up and I'll, but yeah, that came to my attention after hearing Dr. Omar Suleiman talk, or Sheikh Omar Suleiman talk, and I hadn't really thought of it, but I know based on experience with other political detainees in the past before Gaza that that's always something appreciated, because, and it's even worse for ICE detainees because they don't really, it's not the same as regular prisoners. That's some of the only thing that they have access to. So I will find out and let you know in a few minutes.
Okay, excellent. And I'm going to take this next question. And here there are persons asking, so when starting local grassroots campaigns, for example, I'm doing an Israeli bond divestment campaign based in Palm Beach, the biggest investor in the world. What media strategies can be most efficient to push the campaign? So this is a really good question in terms of using media. So either Laila or Hani, any thoughts on helping push this campaign on Israeli bonds?
Bonds?
Yeah, Israeli bonds. Yeah.
Bonds. Not bombs, bonds.
Bonds,
Okay.
not bombs. Yeah.
I guess both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to stop the bombs.
Yeah.
Block the bombs.
Yeah.
Okay. Any thoughts?
I mean, just keep it simple and don't make it, make it about American values. It's how you tell the story, connected to apartheid and how this country divested from there. But also expect pushback. This is where, a lot of money will be spent to attack. I would really make it about children, about also giving Americans an opportunity, like you're going to invest in America versus in a foreign country. I found that's a very effective talking point. Because, if you, in the stock market, people laugh at Chinese stocks. Like, hey, don't invest in this, up and down. We could do the same thing for Israel. I have a friend of mine, she works in comms, and she said, her mission in life, and she's in communications. She said to get the members of Congress, getting money from AIPAC is as toxic as getting money from the National Rifle Association. And I think that's achievable. We could do this. So break it small parts. Thank you.
Right, so that is the Make AIPAC the new NRA. Comment is what we just heard. So we're going to wrap up, and I just want to say I would summarize that we have to be ubiquitous, which means we have to be everywhere. We need to be writing letters. We need to make a commitment that we're going to take action. So for each and every one of you, if we did an exercise right now, and I said to you, is it possible to have twice the number of people here in this room listening and participating? And so the ask would be bring one additional person. Is it doable? Is it difficult? Is it easy? I think it's very easy to do something like that, but it starts with a commitment. So we always try to think, who else can I bring along? What other conversation can I have? What other action? There are WhatsApp groups where their whole focus is motivating people to call members of Congress. And there's probably more than 1,000 people on there. But if everyone took action, those numbers matter. And what we hear from electeds is that they get those metrics. They want to know from their staff, what are people calling about? How many calls came in? And have a conversation. You'll find out that that is a true statement. And I know there's a few of you here that have been meeting. So Partners for Palestine's in the room, and they actually took some opportunity when they came to this conference to schedule extra days to meet with members of Congress. So thank you so much. Any closing comments?
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
Laila
you
has-
have to find the detainee's name, and then you can look up their name on the ICE website, and it tells you which facility they're in. And then on that facility website, they'll have the facility website's mailing address, and you can send letters and postcards only. So that's how you do it, and you can find their names when you search online. The other way is to contact either Muslim Legal Fund or the Center for Constitutional Rights, and they can also direct you as to who are the names and the that you can send letters to. So I hope that's helpful.
Can I quickly
Go
finish?
ahead, Hani, last
Very
word.
brief. I want folks to know in the room that the Christian families in Gaza are also struggling horribly. This is something that's my family seen firsthand at the YMCA. There's about 30 families there, and they feel abandoned. And a lot of people thought they were getting some special help from the Vatican or something like that. They're not getting food. They're starving and they're living off a can. Every week, it's dangerous, but there are some of the families that we work with. If somebody can delegate resources, they're found at a few churches that are left and at the YMCA. So please think of those folks, because some of them also refuse to leave Gaza City because it is a matter of principle. So that's when we talk about Palestinians, we have to include that as well and those voices. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and I think, I don't see Dr. Nagham, but we'll conclude here and we'll turn it over to our
Yes.
moderator. Would you like to offer a final statement, Dr. Nagham?
I really appreciate being part of this conference, and especially I'm talking here from Gaza. It really makes a difference. Like you all are in Washington, and I'm here in Gaza City. Plus, I'm here as your sister. If anyone in the conference have any family in Gaza, I can help or I can reach. I'm here as your sister. And also, it's my pleasure that all Palestinians and all Gazans are here and finally one for the same reason, for the same thing, that we are all Gazans and we need that free Palestine to be there, inshallah. And I really want to appreciate the Thai heritage for this conference. And please don't forget the Gazans right now, because day and day it's too heavy. And my brother is still in Gaza City, but it's really too hard to endure all of this, and the bombardments are not stopping there. And as my sister said, that the word right now is like most and stronger than the sword right now. So we really have to speak up, not be silent, because right now the word started to be with us somehow. And thank you so much for this invitation and for being in such a conference like this. Thank you so much.